Hey, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Happy Friday.
I know, thank goodness. You're on back-to-back episodes of Live with Dan, which is
I know
hilarious.
I haven't been here. I haven't been participating this much in so long.
I know, it's nice,
But I'm
right?
glad to be here.
That's good. We're glad
Uh,
to have you.
yeah, always so fun. Get to learn so many things, chat with you.
I know we were talking before the show about all the things that you've learned over the few years of Live with
I
Dan.
know we should do an audio comparison of like that first week that we were doing, like that first month.
No, actually, it's funny. I watched the first show and then I see what it was and what it is now. We have definitely evolved both
Oh, I
in,
love
yeah,
that.
our skills and our production values. So it's good.
Ooh,
Yeah,
so good.
I
Um,
know.
Sometimes I feel like you and I have the same train of thought. I
That's
was gonna be like,
scary.
so what do we got going on, Dan?
That's scary. That's scary. No, so today we'll have Lenny Murphy on. I'm sure all of you know Lenny. We'll get into his background and we'll talk about research, trends, challenges, and so forth for researchers coming up. I don't think we have too many announcements. I know we're gearing up for IIEX next month, so we're excited about
Yeah.
that. And I'm sure Lenny will have some things to say on that as well.
Yeah.
And the only thing in April, I'm also going to be doing a webinar with the SMR and MRII with Ray Pointer. And that is something that we'll be doing. Oh, Crystal, we lost you.
I'm here. I'm coming.
Okay. All right. You're still there. All right. We're doing a webinar with SMR and MRII, and Ray Pointer and I will be doing that. So be on the lookout for those announcements. And looks like we'll get Crystal back here, but I will go ahead and bring in Lenny. Oh, you're back. Nice. Nice. All right.
I think I need to get a new camera.
Yeah, I would recommend. I have a recommendation for everyone you should get.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because the same thing was happening to me. All right. Cool. Anyway.
Psych Lenny.
Yeah. All right. I just said we were getting better in our skills, and look what happened. I jinxed it.
You jinxed me.
I totally jinxed it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring in the man of the hour here. Lenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here. And
Yeah.
man, I got to say, I love the rapport and Pat, you guys need to take this on the road.
Hey, we're close. We're close. It's not without technical difficulties sometimes.
I always tell Dan we need to do an episode with mimosas.
Well, remember Quirks was doing a series for a while. I don't know if they still are, but the drinks with Dan and and I think it was a 2020 thing. It was like, all right, we just need to get drunk. And so he would interview somebody and they'd be drinking, and that's what they did.
Nice.
So,
oh my gosh. Can you imagine the secrets, the market research tea that would be spilled?
Oh, geez. You went there. You went there, huh? We could do drinks with Dan too. That would work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Lenny, again, thanks for joining us. For those who don't know you, I'd be surprised if there's anyone that doesn't, but can you give a little bit of background and what you're currently up to?
Sure. Well, I'm Leonard Murphy. Most of you probably know me through my relationship with GreenBook. I'm the executive editor and producer. Been in the industry. Well, as somebody reminded me yesterday, now for decades. I hadn't used that language myself, and after being offended, it was like, "Damn, you're right."
I know.
Decades now. So this is actually my 21st year in the research industry.
Wow.
The first half of that was building and running research companies. The last half has been in this really strange role that I have, GreenBook. I think of myself as a agent provocateur and near do well, trying to kind of drive the industry forward and think about cool new stuff and implications of that. And I've got my fingers in lots of pies. GreenBook, there's Gen 2, there's Veriglif, my startup. I advise a bunch of companies. I do a lot of consulting. I do some investing. But what I enjoy most is actually getting on things like this, or people like you, and just BSing about the industry itself. So
yeah, well said. Well said. How long has GreenBook been around?
GreenBook has been around for 60 years.
I know that because they're having a 60th anniversary
that's
party.
right. That's right. 60 years. Wow.
Absolutely. But the first 50 of that was a directory, like the Yellow Pages, right, of the research industry. And that's still a core part of the business. When I got involved 12 years ago, we decided, really it's a publisher.
Mhm.
And what does a modern publisher look like? Well, it's
Right.
content's multi-channel. So it's emerged as it continues to be a publisher, but it is effectively a marketing platform
Right.
for the insights industry, primarily driven via content. And content could be a webinar, it could be, we have a podcast too. IIEX, we're looking forward to that. The
Yep.
return of IIEX Live.
It's my first market research conference ever.
Oh, well, then you're
in for a treat.
you're setting the bar high. So no, you know what? I mean, little shout out real quick. Everybody, God bless. It was a hard 2020 and 2021 were hard years for.
Mhm.
I mean, events make a lot of money, right? They're big revenue generators for the companies that do them. It was tough. It was tough to pivot and go through that. So everybody,
Yeah.
whether I'm not going to call them competitors, we were all in it together to quit, like the world, right? We just had to adapt to something new.
Yeah.
But we're glad to get back to face to face. And
I agree.
I think the energy.
I would
the
say
energy is
that
going to be great. Like
great.
people
That's
aren't
gonna
even
be
going to care if anything messes up or what have you. Are like, we're just happy to be here.
I know that's so true. That's so true. I would say if anybody's like feeling uneasy, I would definitely go. I went to TMRE in November, and that was like my first conference, since COVID happened. And there was a lot of excitement, still some trepidation, I think, and like nervous energy, but it was great. And I would definitely welcome anybody to come. And if you have questions, feel free to ask me. I'm sure everything.
We live here.
I know. That's true. Yeah.
So. Well, and it's been interesting dealing with that. So we're not going to, it's not at the 2019 IEX was 1,200 people, right? Attending. Our plan for 2020 was closer to 1,800. We thought it would be
right.
Not gonna happen, right? There is still trepidation. So, and there's still limitations on client side budgets for travel.
Interesting.
So so I don't think we'll be at the 1,200 number. My guess is there'll be, well, we're over 600 right now. My guess is that we'll be pushing 1,000 day of the. So it's gonna be a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But I think everybody's kind of in this place now of we all know what to do, right? If you're uncomfortable, I mean, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to be there smiling and greeting people, but I understand other folks may be, and it'll be interesting as we adapt to all of that. But most importantly, it's going to be great just to be back with people.
There's a great energy that's there.
Yeah.
I guess, speaking about researchers and people, an IAX is, I think, showcasing and kind of leading the charge here in terms of, priorities for researchers. But what do you see as some of the priorities for researchers in 2020 or 2022, I guess? See, I'm still living. Talking before this, so I think it's still 2020. And look what I did. I just said 2020. So in 2022.
It all blurs together. You think we want to put it behind us, but it's still stuck right in our consciousness. Well, if I can give a little shameless plug, we just a few minutes ago just released the newest grit report.
I just saw the email.
I got the email.
Yeah. Okay. So, which was not coordinated with this, but talking about priorities, I mean, that's our latest take on what those are. I mean, it's interesting that, there was a long tail of disruption, and we often look at it and say, 2020 it accelerated disruptive trends that were already there, right? Particularly the adoption of technology, automation, cheap, fast, all of those things. That was already there, but it wasn't an imperative.
Right.
The biggest disruption probably was the impact of qual to go from face to face to digital. So what is the priorities? There's a couple that stand out. Research is digitally driven, period. That is the majority of research, particularly in North America. So there, but even globally, when we talk about research, we're generally now talking about primarily a digital experience from both a data collection standpoint and a respond experience. And that has implications. So one is around cost, one is around speed. The third is around quality. But those things haven't changed ever. It's always been cheaper, faster, better. Give me all three. That's been a dominant trend. So that continues apace, right? That is happening.
Right.
What is particularly interesting, though, is DIY seems to have kind of peaked. And I don't mean that there's not still room for DIY. That's not what I mean. There's still, and certainly Question Pro, right? I know you guys go, great, Lenny, what are you saying? There's, I think there's a leveling out of understanding fit for purpose, right? And organizations, and those organizations that are equipped and understand the value of DIY, they're going to continue to do that, and that's going to continue to grow.
Right.
But it's not all. The part of the model is there is still a demand for service. And when I kind of think about it from a leveling out perspective, is the more tactical the research business issue is, the more that's going to be electronically driven, and it's going to continue to shift towards DIY, right? Type of solutions and automation and AI, and it'll do those things. The more strategic the business issue, and there are a lot of strategic business issues that continue to evolve. I mean, look, right now, I mean, the world just continues to be in this constant state of what? I'm waiting for the aliens to land. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's happening. I think it might happen soon here.
It may be. There's signs.
Do you know at this point, if it happened, we'd all be like,
okay.
All right. Random things happening.
They're
like, okay, that happened. Moving on.
Right. I mean, and do you have a Tic Tac that I can? Never mind. Stupid conspiracy theory joke. So the strategic issues continue to be important, and what's interesting is that those are not purely quantitative driven. One of the really cool things is that this shift towards digital qual, particularly, and I'm using qual in the big bucket, right? I mean, communities and groups and stuff like Remesh does, and all of those things.
Yep.
It's based on the idea of understanding humans, and that ties into the growth of non-conscious measurement tools. Everything to kind of get to walk a mile in our shoes as consumers, and that's now become scalable. And that is really interesting because that puts a different demand on the researcher skill set. So the priority, to get to the crux of your point in my mind, is researchers are rapidly evolving to what we need to be data scientists, because there's lots of data from lots of sources. But we also need to be ethnographers and psychologists and sociologists, so we can understand things. We also have to be journalists and data visualization artists and communications majors, so we can take all this information, this kind of hard and soft category of information, and make it digestible at the speed of business. And I think that was really something that 2020 taught us is, you know what? Pardon my language, but shit changes like that.
It does.
It does. And it did, right? And it continues to. So, and brands can't wait weeks and months to make some of these decisions. It is often, just like the current situation with Ukraine, right? And brands that are changing their entire businesses and pulling things out of Russia. And these are massive business decisions that happen very quickly. So we have to understand things fast and deliver it fast, so decision makers can make decisions at a far, far faster rate than we used to think about these things being done.
Right.
So I know I went all over the place, but there's lots of different parts.
I was like, there's so many nuggets in there.
Yeah, no, I think it's so true. And as you were talking, it kind of gets me back to a point that I've made before. At least maybe it's only been in my head. I'm not sure, but. I think oftentimes market research can be slow to adopt, right? New technologies and change is seen as very hard. They're tried and true methods that they want to stick to. But do you think that the pandemic was almost a benefit to spur or impetus to some of this change? Like, what would you say to that, Lenny?
I mean, in some ways, and I'll tell you, even kind of personally, when the pandemic hit, I'm a control freak, and and all of a sudden I felt very out of control, and my world's like, what? And I what helped me was to think about the positive outcomes, right? And that really helped me through that kind of April 2020, April, May, I pivoted my head to think, okay, this all sucks. Good stuff is going to come out of this. What does that look like? Right. And there has been good, and there will continue to be good. And I think you're right. One of those was it spurred companies like Question Pro and Recollective and Remesh and Zappy and all of these companies that were the cool new kids on the block, right? Creating new technology.
We are cool new kids.
The solutions were there,
right?
And when they were needed, they were able to step up,
right,
and deliver, and proved it. So they proved their value, and it helped research prove its value at the C-suite level,
right?
Information has always been a currency, but it became like gold, like gold today.
Right. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
It's going up. Oil, right? Data's in oil. Yeah.
Don't say that now.
Yeah.
Data's expensive now.
Yeah, I know. So I do think there was benefit. I think it forced a lot of good came out of it, and it did force a lot of folks out of their comfort zone to adapt very quickly, and I think it's clear now that there is no snapback, so we can't get comfortable again.
Right.
Now that can be challenging, right? I mean, sometimes it's exhausting to keep track of all of the change and keep pushing ahead.
Like, what? Welcome to being a marketer.
Right.
Like,
right. I mean, it's Moore's law, right? I mean, that curve, it doesn't level out. It just keeps going, and we're in that, right?
Yeah.
We continue to curve up, and thank God that we were in a place where there were a lot of folks that had dealt that, and it was really interesting to see in 2021, particularly, the capital markets respond to that. I mean, unprecedented number of investments and acquisitions in this space.
That's
and
true.
Unprecedented valuations.
Yeah.
Because they saw, wow, this is not such a little industry anymore. And wow, these companies are really making a difference. They're important. They've become mission critical, and they're good investable assets. And so it was a really great kind of virtuous cycle of change and disruption, and saying, oh, this is good, and funding to help drive more change and disruption. So I'm very positive about where we continue to go. I think the industry is in a great place overall, and it's going to continue to change.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an even better place as things progress.
Well, it's true. And you mentioned, kind of the capital markets are obviously taking notice. And I think it's only going to continue. And that'll lead to the advent of, new companies coming on board, coming to light, pushing current companies to adapt and change. So I don't know, I think change is good, right? And Crystal, you have your hand up. So.
I have a question.
Jump in.
As someone who, I'm always such an advocate for change. I had a lot of questions coming into the business, frankly, but then 2020 happened. I only worked here for 3 months before the pandemic. And then I just
baptism of fire.
Okay. But something I do see is yes, moving fast is great. But something Dan and I have kind of lobbed back and forth about is if you bring in those young, fast companies, do they miss some of the history and analysis and the professionalism that comes with true market researchers? I'm really thinking Ray Pointer and just his analysis on things is just brilliant. And you bring in all these fast companies that are oh, we're just going to use AI, or we're just going to use this. Right. And you're missing almost that market, true market researcher.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And it's a delicate balancing act, right? The research is a science. It is based on very traditional science, and it is foundationally about risk aversion, or at least risk mitigation.
Yep.
Right.
Reducing bias.
Yep. So it's how to keep our feet on the ground or head in the clouds, kind of thing, right? That's so I'm a huge advocate that we need to have that foundational element. I'm on the board of the UGA MMR program and the Michigan State MMR program. I think that they're incredibly important to continue to have those
Yeah.
those foundational skills,
Yep.
but also to evolve in understanding fit for purpose. And I think that Ray and I used to talk about this all the time when we had a primitive podcast years ago. And it's that is the crux is all these cool ideas are fantastic and we need to experiment. But the goal is to find fit for purpose. It's like back in the day, and maybe you may remember it, Dan, where social media monitoring is going to replace qualitative research.
Mhm.
Well, no, I understand where people got that idea.
Yeah.
Now there is a purpose and a role for that type of data and for the application of that within the research space. And in many cases, it created a new category, but it didn't replace anything. And I don't think that we're going to see a replacement for anything either. With all the young guns, that want to recreate everything. I mean, I've mentioned Remesh a couple times, and Andrew Kanya, the founder, he's a computational biologist, PhD. The man's brilliant.
Yeah.
He had a great idea to apply AI to streamline the process to do macro qual. It's a great idea, but it doesn't replace everything, right?
Right.
I mean, it creates amazing efficiency to do certain things. And the same thing, question for Vivek and you guys for years and years, DIY, you've done amazing things, particularly mobile, right? I mean, Question Pro really pushed the boundaries early on the expansion of mobile across the board and built some fantastic tools before anybody else was going down that path. And really visionary from that respect.
Right.
And so we found what's the fit for purpose, right?
Yeah.
So that's the balancing act is foundation of research, fit for purpose. Some things fit neatly into our toolbox. Some things are really, they kind of are outside and they have a role in the broader business intelligence world.
Mm.
But they may not be specifically designed for market research.
Right.
The next big thing, though, I'm skeptical of the whole metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny because I think I had slacked you, Crystal, or someone. I'm like, what does research look like in the metaverse? And kind of thinking about those topics.
You.
No, I'm slacked you.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're in the world of Ready Player One. I mean, I love that book. I love that movie. But I'm not wearing a haptic suit and walk around with a visor on.
I know
all the time. And it's like it's as scary as it is cool. But form factor, there will be people who adopt some of those solutions from a form factor perspective.
Right.
And as consumers are engaging with a different form factor, a different channel, research will have to adapt. And that's going to look different. Are we dealing with a survey that you're doing virtual reality, and click my,
oh my gosh, think about what's that question type where you have the pictures?
Well, right.
Card sorting.
Think
about card sorting in virtual reality.
I mean, everything. You just,
Right. And if you're, but I mean, in eye tracking, you're embedded in the, so there's all types of interesting ideas on how that will work. And we'll have to adapt the science of questionnaire design. That will change.
Yeah.
In that factor, but I think we're years away from doing that. But we should be paying attention to it. We do need to be prepared.
Right.
To handle the evolution in culture and society and technology. Again, keep our feet on the ground, understand the science, while being open and innovative as things change, because they just do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And people wanted more interactive surveys, so what better way to give it to them than in the metaverse?
Can we just? I think being an early adopter is so fun. But sometimes I just want to be like, okay, people, look at the reality of the world. Oh man.
So I've got a Google Glass sitting over here on my shelf. It's covered in dust. It hasn't even been taken out of its case in 6 years. It was really cool, and I tried. Oh, look, I got Google Glass.
Right,
so cool.
right.
And after a week, it's like, okay, this is a pain in the ass. I don't see this becoming, a big thing. But it was cool to think about, right?
It's true. I mean, it's a it's a fun product, but when it comes to reality, it's like, am I really going to integrate this every day, all the time? So
I tried wearing it around, and finally it was like, all right, I look ridiculous, and I feel like a jerk. Oh, look, I've got Google Glass.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I know that the Grit report just came out, and I would encourage everybody to go download it and read it. But any high level sort of insights you can share, Lenny?
Yeah, well, I think I dumped a lot of them already, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll brag a little bit, and
Sure.
it is a high level
Please
insight.
do.
Because of all these changes, the structure, the landscape of the industry is changing as well, and we continue to try and get a handle on how to map that out, right? To create a segmentation model for the research industry. So we, and you may recall, Dan, if you saw Crystal in the past, we had this map that looked like it was inspired by kind of Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
That was fun, but it really wasn't very useful. We've done an interactive map now that is available online and interactive embedded in the PDF version of the report. That allows you to kind of explore segments more
cool.
and understand the constituent companies. But here's what's interesting is it is messy, right? There are very few companies that fit cleanly into one category.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they really fit in many categories. And I think that's an interesting message for buyers to understand that you need to focus on what the strength of your supplier in a specific thing, right? And that thing, it may be a technology, it may be a methodology, or it may be a business issue. But you're not going to find anybody who just does one thing and that's all that they do.
Yeah.
It's very amorphous, and it's on a spectrum of basically technology to service, right? And everybody's somewhere in this degree, on this line. So I think that it's interesting for that, and it's also interesting for the suppliers to recognize differentiating in this market is challenging. And it doesn't mean everybody's a me too. I don't mean that at all. Again, the Question Pro, you guys do some things far better than your competitive set. So I think there's some interesting marketing messages there for suppliers to understand. And what we attempted to do is to kind of map out proximity to show, look, here's this cluster of these companies. They look a lot more similar than these companies, even though at a broad level they fit within the same segment, right? They're all technology companies. So I think that we worked hard on it. It's kind of a personal geeky passion of mine to look at that. I think that I hope that people find value in exploring those things, because that's what drives growth in the industry, right?
I would agree. Yeah.
So and we've seen the industry grow. It's not this constantly redefining ourselves. It's redefining our value proposition and our key differentiators to our constituents, which are the buyers. And we're really bad marketers in general as companies. So Crystal,
I'm working on it.
You guys rock, right? But a lot of other companies,
present company excluded.
Present company excluded. Right?
I'm working on it.
So I just think it's interesting. It's kind of cool, and it unlocks a different perspective on everything else from that business idea. And that's really what we try to do with Grit is it is a very business-centric strategic planning document. That's how we think about things. So everything that we do and present is from that perspective. I'm a CEO or the head of research at P&G, right? What do I need to know so that I can stay ahead and make good decisions for my organization? And we continue to experiment with ways to do that. And I think that we've done a pretty damn good job with this new one.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, thanks for sharing that, because I think the Grit report is something I look forward to reading and just seeing the different landscape. What are some of the trends? And I'm excited about that interactive segmentation. I think that'll be cool to check out. So
Yeah. Well,
Really.
let me know what you think. You may say, what were you thinking, Lenny?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's okay.
What were you doing
Lenny,
here? No.
yeah, we're experimenting too. So please, audience, yeah, feel free. It's lmurphy@greenbook.org. You can email me and say,
Yeah.
dude, you were
Dude.
trying to make this useful. I don't know what you were thinking. So please, I'll take that feedback. So,
I'm sure everyone will be positive with the feedback. So
researchers are very critical of other
well,
researchers.
that's true. Yeah, you have a point. You have a point
Y'all
there.
are the worst.
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, Lenny. But
I get hate mail. So
I think it's because you're like, well, I understood how to interpret this better.
That's true. That's a very good point. Very good point.
It's my market researcher voice.
But
So
it's still a
ominous,
labor of love, and that's okay. It's like you can call my baby ugly. I still think it's beautiful. So,
That's funny.
anyway.
That's funny. Awesome. So one more question for you, Lenny, and you may have already covered this, but what's the number one trend you're seeing so far in 2022?
Boy, that's a tough one. Because there are a lot. So one, I think there's going to be a leveling out on the capital markets that we saw in 2021.
Right.
There's still some real jewels out there that we're going to see some great valuations and great deals happen for them. There's some others that have been anticipating trying to get to that level that may not.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be a little more down to earth. That'll be one.
That makes sense. I think that makes sense. Like sort of a regression back to the mean, right? I think in 2021 it was so far out here that it's going to come back at some point. So that's interesting.
The other big one is going to be sample quality. And here's why. And if we have I know we're over, but give me just another minute because I think this is important. It finally clicked for me. Sample quality has been talked about in the research industry forever.
Mm-hmm.
But we have never had a supply constriction combined with a quality issue. And that is what we have right now. And that supply constriction is driven by a few things. One is changes from a cultural perspective. There's privacy concerns. There's people checking out. There's just all types of stuff that's affecting the universe of respondents that are available, engaged, and willing to participate in anything, particularly online. So there's lots of barriers now coming up. There's lots of silos and wall gardens and all types of stuff that's making it harder to get to people,
right,
and to get them to participate. That's one. With this quality issue, and there was an Inside Association event a few weeks ago where a group called CASE presented a study they were doing across multiple panels, and it was pretty bad, but you can cover up quality when you can oversample. And
that's what I was thinking as you were saying, the constriction and the quality. When you oversample, it's easier. Yeah, makes sense.
When you struggle to even get to the end, and then you're throwing stuff away because it's bad quality, that's an issue. And that clients are painfully aware of that issue right now. And some of the largest buyers in the world are no longer going to stay quiet, nor are they going to accept it. So there's going to be some pain through that, as well as a lot of innovation that comes out of that. But that's going to change. The model that we've had in place for so many years, that was just, it made wonderful strides in efficiency, and speed and cost, right? And that's wonderful. But we have different challenges now, and that's not going to be the answer to everything. We're going to have to rethink targeting and engagement, rewards, and continue to work against all the the scammers that pollute the automated sample sources. It's going to be an interesting time. And it's foundational.
That's right. Yeah, it is. I think you're right, because even I think the onus we used to put on the suppliers, like, no, you guys have to filter these people out. But I know it's something that we've done recently is said, no, like, we need better data quality tools within our platform.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're never going to catch all these folks, right? So I think we've also put the onus back on us a little bit and said, hey, no, we need to have better tools and, working with other partners and so forth. But no, I think that's an interesting data quality. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that's super important and will continue to be, I think, for how many years, who knows how long to come. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then one quick plug. I know next week MRII and SMR will have Vignesh from Research Defender on talking about this very thing. So it's definitely top of mind for a lot of people out there.
It is. It's going to be, I think a lot of people like to, oh God, here we go again,
No.
but I mean, I always play like our industry doesn't exist without sample.
Yep.
Right.
Period.
But when do you, I guess it's also like, it's like dating. It's like when you're on Tinder, you have so many options. Like when do you decide like I don't need any more? That was like instantly where my brain went.
Does
like when do you put the cap on options?
We can take that in a whole other direction, Crystal. I'm not going to go there.
All right, that's probably a good place to wrap up.
Right? Yeah. Let's end it now before one of us says something to embarrass, namely me, myself. So
that was great. Well, Lenny, hey, thanks so much for coming on today. We'll definitely have to do a part 2. Maybe when we do our conspiracy theories episode, you'll have to come back on for that.
Those are my favorite episodes, Lenny.
I know.
And so you can't see. This is my geek bookshelf. These are all my comic books and stuff, right?
I like it.
We have another book, another library room, and there are 3 whole shelves. There's nothing but like aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts and
nice.
Like that's my jam, man.
Okay,
so we want to get into that. I am happy to jump.
We
into
did
that.
so much polling around it too.
I know it was fun.
So
it was fun. All right, that's definitely coming up. We have to do this now. So look for that later this year. We'll make it a reality.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Lenny. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
There we go. Sorry, I thought you removed him.
I think we were both in at the same time.
Yeah, we're both clicking the button. That was so fun. I feel like I learned a lot. I was literally like taking notes in the background for
super interesting.
Thanks for the inspiration, Lenny. See some content coming our way.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Awesome. But next week, Dan, don't forget, you're not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here. No.
Spring break, man. Any fun plans?
Getting out of town. We're headed to the Texas coast.
Oh, so like the Gulf?
The Gulf, yeah. I guess it's a coast. Is it a coast or a Gulf? I don't know. Somewhere down there.
That'll be fun. I love that.
That'll be fun. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Well, if you guys need anything or are here for IIEX, make sure to let us know in the comments section. Please, Dan and I are going to be putting together a best of Austin. And so we definitely want to meet with you or see you at the conference. We'll have a kiosk. We're going to be in the lounge and our very own Tim Cornelius will be talking. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So we're looking forward to that. If you're going to be here, reach out, please. Yes,
love to have it. Yeah, love to meet up.
Okay.
All right.
This was great. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Go ahead and call it a wrap. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.